Good morning. I'm your algorithm. I know how much you're going to work out, what food you're going to order, what...
It was a win for Maserati yesterday. It's going to be a win today for Maserati. And then Philippe Pret for the top step.
Seven poles, 7 wins, and you win the AM title yet again. So deserved.
I love it. I want to do it again.
It looks like a car, but it is much more than that. It's the result of a way of being. It's a mentality taking shape. It's a continuous what if? It's the ultimate version of can't be better. It's the impossible looking less impossible. It's starting from the search for perfection and ending up getting lost in beauty. It's failing or flying. It's intelligence having fun. It's experimenting with dreams. It's the passion of Italians for life. It looks like a car, but it is all the cars we've ever dreamt of.
Well, some say that this is a championship that isn't a marathon. Well, it isn't a marathon because it is a sprint. We've only got 3 rounds in the Maserati GT Challenge. This is the Velocity Esports Racing Maserati GT2 Challenge, brought to you with on Assetto Corsa Competizione and Motors Inc., Intercomp, Monsters Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and The Specialist, and myself, James Otter, alongside this man here, Adam Reed. Should be an absolute cracker of a season ahead of us. We're starting off here in Donington Park before we take a trip in a very short calendar. Not many sort of spaces for mistakes here, Adam.
Yeah, hi James. It's great to be back in the commentary box. Really looking forward to getting along with this. Yes, it's going to be a very short time here in the Maserati GT Challenge. So you're going to have to be very on the ball. You can't really afford to make any mistakes in this game here. So in a very tough competition, you know, you're really going to have to be the one to really step on the marks and really get yourself going, and especially in the first round here at Donington, you're going to have to be very on the limit for sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have a look at the the calendar, actually, because we are not just staying in Great Britain. We obviously take a trip over to Zolder in Belgium for round 2 next week before we wrap it all up at the Styrian Mountains at the Red Bull Ring, as that says on there, but the Red Bull Ring on the 2nd of March. So it should be, you know, an absolute cracker of a season. As I said, not many sort of rooms for mistake here, because if you end up making one critical error, your championship could be all done and dusted down in round 1. So the question is, though, is who is going to be the hero for the Maserati GT2 Challenge? I'm certainly looking forward to being alongside you for this one. Adam, Donington Park poses its own little challenges, of course, but should be one of the easier circuits that we expect for this one here, although be it that little ink down at the back of the track should pose a few little challenges at the Melbourne hairpin.
Yeah, absolutely. Donington is it's almost like a very fast oval, especially if you take the kind of the shortened layout. But yeah, it just seems like a very fast oval for the majority of it. There's a lot of kind of nifty corners there, a lot of elevation on the circuit as well. We head towards Coppice Corner. Only 6 cars in the championship, but it does look like we've got returnees in the form of Chris Denton has come back. Looks like Milo Ferla has also come back to the opening round of last year's championship, but I'm hoping it decides to make a full attack. It looks like also Gabriel Quattromani, who just jumped into the lobby. He's also a returning, but it looks like Nat Agostino and Johan Borg are pretty much the ones very much new to this championship. They have the other kind of 5 cars have previous experience in this championship, in this GT2 car, so I wonder how much of an upper hand these drivers can get. You see there's a basic livery there for Mark D'Agostino in that number 1 Maserati GT2 as he heads for a lap.
Yeah, down towards Wheatcroft, then into Redgate, then for the first of those laps as well. There you might have mentioned Milo Ferla in the Project Versio Maserati, expecting everyone, you know, this is a completely fresh challenge, of course, in Assetto Corsa. We've seen in many other GT3 championships where we've seen, you know, some benefit of the individuals moving to, let's say, the Ford Mustang, maybe even the Ferrari on certain aspects. But because we're now in a bit of a spec car championship, by sticking with the Maserati, it's all going to be about pure pace here. And when you've got the likes of Denzel Agius in this particular championship, you can't help but feel we have a little bit of an early favourite in this 3-round championship.
Yeah, you do. You know, all these drivers have also done the GT3 Championship we did a while ago. So, Denzel actually is having a bit of a drift on out of Coppice corner. So he's already getting the car pretty light and pretty, yeah, as I say, pretty light there over the course of the corners. But yeah, Donington is going to be quite as I say, a nifty circuit. I'm interested to see how these drivers do adapt to a circuit like this. It's very old school. Quite a bit of runoff on a lot of the circuits. It's not like Brands Hatch where you have a little bit of grass and then the barriers are right there waiting to greet you. This one you can afford maybe a mistake or two, but if you are going to go off, you're not going to be greeted with some beautiful, nice runoff. You're going to be greeted with either grass or gravel.
Critical sort of situation here. If you are just tuning in here, welcome aboard to the Maserati GT2 Challenge brought to you by Velocity Esports. Following Mile Furler at the moment, so she's just chucking her car through the expected centre road at the moment, heading down Starkey's Bridge. It'll be interesting to see how these drivers adapt, of course, to these cars, because none of these people are used to using the Maserati GT2. Of course, the majority of the drivers here racing GT3, so it's a little bit of a jump up, and no surprises that Denzel Adris is fastest up. I've got plenty of qualifying to go, just over 16 minutes left in this session before we head on into the race. As we're just staying with Mile Furler now as she's heading her way through the S's. You'll see a lot of people cut these corners. You can actually get rid of all of the bollards on that inner point of turn number 9. Here they come through turn 10 then, the Melbourne hairpin. She'll be wanting to try and get as close as she can to that curb, which is absolutely nailed in fairness to her, as she then heads towards Goddard and finish a lap around here. She's about 1.2 seconds down on her fastest lap so far, so hopefully this will be a marked improvement. With just a little bit under 15.5 to go, she will come across the line, 1.2 to just 0.3 of a second behind the fan favourite himself, Denzel Adris, in the other Project Aversio car. He's just heading his way now through Goddard, pardon me, sorry, we are following Johan Forge now. He's just heading his way through the old hairpin.
He is indeed. So he's now just going to head his way down and towards old hairpin, and now just trying to get the car out there. Oh, in fact, he's gone off the track there, so he's going to have to get himself back to the pit lane, and that's going to be a pretty unfortunate track there for Johan Forge, but I'm sure he'll be back out. Meanwhile, James Smith has completed his first lap 2 seconds slower than Denzel Adris there, so he's going to have to try and make up a little bit of lost time here. He's going in towards the old hairpin. He's gone a little bit too deep as well, but it's not quite as catastrophic as Johan Forge's trip, which went right off, and I'm sure that in real life would have maybe damaged the car slightly. But yeah, just seeing through some of these corners, it's really flowy in a lot of these parts. But you get to a blind corner like Coppice, it's so difficult through there, because you're just trying to navigate through where the apex is, where can I run off, and I think that's a really strange bit about that corner. You can run a little bit wide through there, but it's where is the edge of the circuit, because if you misjudge it, you're going for a very fast trip across the gravel track. And now he heads his way in toward the Melbourne hairpin, where he's going to try and slam on the brakes, which he does, get it slowed down past the big Heineken sign in the middle of the corner there, and he's going to accelerate on towards Goddard's and complete this lap. And I wonder where this is going to be, because this is as I say, a 129.0 was the initial lap time around. Adris going 1/10th of a second faster. He goes over the line. I don't think it was an improvement. No, not really. There for James Smith.
Yeah, the over 40s club driver with plenty of experience over in ACC, James Smith, not able to make any kind of improvement here. And what a weird set of events that we are in here, Adam, as we go on board with Gabriel Quattromani racing, and not a Prestige livery Maserati on this occasion. So a little bit more sort of stripped back livery here as he's racing the rookie team, as he now heads his way down towards the S's, where we would expect now, the Maserati to be at its absolute peak. You don't want to break too early on here, because you could lose a bucket of time. Actually, a little bit more conservative on the entry of the S's there for Gabriel Quattromani, as he's now heading towards the Melbourne hairpin. He has actually got a very quick driver just up behind him at the moment as well. Hopefully not going to be impeding too aggressively, and he's gone for a spin, as there maybe caught a little bit off guard by the very quick driver that was here. Here's Chris Gatt as well on the accelerator Accelerate Racing Maserati, always a pleasure to see the Gat himself. He's now just heading his way through the crane of curves at the moment, looking to get a representative lap time on the board. He's in the 131s as it stands.
Yeah, indeed. He just trying to improve. I think it's all about kind of build your confidence. At this moment in time, especially for someone like Chris Gatt, who I think we can all say he's not the fastest driver in the kind of the Velocity Ultimate Velocity Esports Racing Series, but of course, he's really been trying his best. He's managed to get a few points finishes there, top 6 there, top 5 there, but it's been a bit of a struggle for him. But if he can gain the confidence now, he can work his way around the circuit, albeit there's a short amount of time left in the session. There's a grand opportunity that he's put himself in a very, very good position. His spread at the moment being 4 seconds, but he can very easily tie that up to under 2.5 seconds, which is going to be pretty good for a 7-car grid size. Towards Goddard, I wonder if he's just trying to work out what the lines are doing, because it's a very, very strange kind of a set of lines there that you're heading into more Goddard. It's showing you to go wide, but also there's going to be a left-handed hairpin, and he goes over the line, improvement, but it's at a 130 to just load that one up.
Yeah, not too a few moments ago there, Denzelagius actually improving on his lap there as D'Agostino making a little bit of a mistake going through Goddard's. That will cost him time all the way down Wheatcroft straight into Redgate. Here is Denzelagius. As I said, he's improved on his lap time. It was a 27.0, it's now a 26.9. So put 4 tenths between him and D'Agostino. Maya Lafurla with a decent shot to getting a decent podium here as it stands, as the gap between her and James Smith down in P4 is just around about 7 tenths of a second. So plenty of opportunity to continue improving as you get to feel the Maserati. Of course, these people were practicing for about an hour prior to qualifying, so plenty of opportunities to find even more pace out there. But you can see people now with about 10 minutes to go are just trying to find the limit of the circuit, trying to find that every 100th they can at the moment, because if they can, they might find themselves climbing up the order just a little bit, especially with only 7 drivers out on the field with the 3 races in this calendar. Every 100th of a second is certainly going to count.
Indeed, and one thing you don't have to be thinking about is space on the circuit. There's a lot of times, especially during the GT3 Championship or maybe an iRacing lobby, where you're just thinking about, how much track space is there? Where can I fit in? Where can I get a slipstream, but also not get stuck behind the car in front of me? For this one, they don't really need to think about it. They can try and grab a bit of a toe, but how effective is it going to be in these Maserati MC20s, the GT2 car? So it'll be very, very interesting. 9 minutes left in the session, and we do have a couple of cars there sitting in the pit lane. It's just Denzelagius, Mark D'Agostino, and Gabriele Quattromani who are out there at this moment in time. And you know how fast Denzelagius is. He's done very well in the GT3 category, but GT2 might be a bit of a different level, but he's still showing some really, really good findings around this lap in his Project Aversio Capes Maserati. He's still just trying to find any form of time he possibly can, but I'm sure he can probably just have a relaxing time in the pit lane, but that's not what he wants to do. He wants to be out there on track gathering as much data as he possibly can. 4 tenths to good.
Yeah, just making a few notes myself at the moment of what's happening out on circuit. Johan Borges is one to keep an eye on at the moment, just under 2 seconds. Oh, Quattromani getting a bit of a tank slapper. Well held there, Mr. Quattromani, as he gets that tank slapper on the grass, and he just parks it there, returns to the pit lane, and just takes a breather as he's heading towards McLean's. That car was absolutely on a knife's edge, so fair play to the number treble 4 Maserati there, 2.3 seconds back from the fastest lap time of Denzelagius, who at the moment D'Agostino has just come across the line. He hasn't improved on his lap either. He's still around 4 tenths back. We are just keeping a very firm eye on the number 12 of James Smith. He is looking to improve as he's now heading his way through the Melbourne hairpin at the moment. Here's Maya Lafurla. There's Denzelagius at the moment. Be interested to see how the number 13 of Johan Borg is doing, because he's now just heading his way through Goddard's at the moment, looking to try and set a lap time, at least a somewhat improvement here as he comes across the line right now, and he cannot improve any further than his lap time of that 1:28.962 is what he last set, so he improves on his fastest lap but not on his position. As it stands though, still favourite out there, Dan Zalagius is absolutely flying. Here is Maya Lafurla, she's now just finishing up now at Goddard's. She's now wanted to set an improved lap time. Is she going to get anywhere near D'Agostino? She won't on this occasion. She's actually just set a lap time, actually close to her personal best, to be fair. So she is setting relative consistent lap times at the moment here, Adam, but just not improving, and that is not particularly helpful with 7 minutes to go in qualifying. Denzelagius looking to go any faster, not on this occasion.
No, I just wonder if there's potential fuel loads as well, because remember you can kind of adjust your fuel load, that you can make adjustments to the car, and I just wonder if it's, you know, it's the drivers like Agius, like D'Agostino or Lafella, who really do get these kind of GT tin top cars and are able to kind of set them up in a way so it kind of suits the circuit a little bit, but then you kind of get maybe Johan Borg, Gabriel Quattromani and Chris Gatt, who are maybe not quite as experienced in picking up a car and trying to play around with it. You know, they might not just have that same experience. Trust me, it's very, very difficult to try and set up a car like a Seto Corsa Competizione. It's not like a Formula 1 series where you have kind of a good idea, a range of what you can do. It is very much, you know, here's some numbers, now try and work it out all yourself. Because of course some of these drivers are doing it for fun as well. You know, they're doing it for the love of the game. But yeah, sometimes we enjoy a competitive grid, and I think that's potentially what we're going to be getting as well. If those top 3, maybe top 4s can stay pretty consistent, I think we're going to get a good midfield battle as well. Denzel Adji is now approaching the line. He's going to try to extend that 0.4 of a second margin that he has over Mark D'Agostino. He'll head over the line and see if he can improve that this time around. No, at less than 0.2 of a second off. So there is still potentially a little bit of time, but he's starting to reach that ceiling pretty fast.
It's a real point in this one. With 5 and a bit minutes to go in this session, I'm starting to feel that the cliff edge of the peak performance maybe has been hit. We'll see if D'Agostino does manage to make any kind of improvement. He stays, look at that, in the 1:28, so he's down 7/10 on his fastest lap at the moment. So it's making me wonder if we have hit a little bit of a cliff edge at the moment in these Maseratis. 5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Myla Furler on a lap at the moment, so she's heading towards the S's, wanting to try and get, if she can, at least a couple of tenths, if she can help it, against D'Agostino. Ooh, very, very on the limit though as she's heading through the second part of the S's now. She's heading towards the Melbourne hairpin. She'll want to try and brake as early as she can here, because she wants to go in slow in, fast out at this 180 degree corner rather. Heading towards Goddard's, then the other slightly wider 180 degree corner. She'll want to not brake too late here, get on the grass. She's just really pushing the limits of the car, but she's going to go on the grass. She broke far too late, and you can hear that dink, if you will, as she went over the curb. That car did not like that one at all, and she will not improve on her lap. Still nearly 7/10 down on Denzel Agius. Here is Johan Borg. He's heading through the old hairpin at the moment. Looks like not on a particularly fast lap. Teamed up with James Smith for this particular championship, by the way, the LP Racing team, as he's heading now towards McLean's. Johan Borg looking to try and get one up on his teammate at the moment, but still down by 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, indeed. It's still looking a little bit of kind of a low in those sectors there as he heads through his cop. It's a big old cut from Johan Borg there as he makes his way now down the Bentley Straight and on towards the Essex chicane. How will he attack this one? Just past what I believe is the old museum used to be, with a whole host of Grand Prix cars once laid for unfortunately being closed down just before the pandemic. But now in toward the Melbourne hairpin, he goes quite to the inside, so a little bit of an interesting entry in there. That was great from the heads-up display camera. And now you head in towards the final corner of Goddard's. He's now going to just try and get the car rotating and on towards the Wheatcross Straight past all the past the commentary box, past the main grandstand, which you may have spotted once in the film Rush back in 2013. No improvement there, unfortunately, there for Johan Borg position-wise. Mark D'Agostino looks like he's a man on a mission at the moment.
Yeah, one of my favourite films as well is Rush, alongside the F1 sort of film as well, although I've got a few qualms with that one, but that's another conversation. We're talking about these GT2 cars, and D'Agostino just heading his way now through the Melbourne hairpin, and again, a bit like Myla Furler on a push lap on this occasion, but again, we saw Myla Furler make that mistake at Goddard's, where she got on that curve too aggressively. Now on this occasion, a little bit more of a conservative approach, just misses his early apex, but manages to get it back, does D'Agostino, as he heads now towards the main straight, and he does find at least a little bit more time. He's found another 10th, but he's still 3/10 down at the moment on Denzel Agius, the man currently the only person within the 126s. Here's Gabriel Quattromani. He's now heading through McLean's. He's just tucked in behind Myla Furler, also on a lap at the moment. 2 minutes to go in this one, so another lap opportunity potentially on the cards for Myla Furler. Might be a little bit of a risk here for Quattromani though. Where is Lafurler at the moment? She's now heading through the S's actually, so she's now heading her way down towards the Melbourne hairpin. I'll be interested to see if there's an improved lap time for her in just a second. There she is now, going through the Melbourne hairpin as she now goes towards Goddard's. This will be an important lap here for Myla Furler. She's got to try and find some confidence at this corner. A couple of times she's made a mistake here, and again she's made another mistake, going too wide, too deep into the Goddard's corner. She won't improve on this lap, I don't think, and she hasn't done, so she's now on her last attempt here. Here's Quattromani. Oh wow, Quattromani's found 6/10. A great lap from him. Doesn't improve on his position, but it's a good lap nonetheless.
Yeah, superb lap, but yeah, it's still trying to find the limits on this in this final minute of this session. Really trying to work towards that final sequence. Again, we were right with Mark D'Agostino as he tries to he approaches the last corner. It looks like someone has just left. That's Chris Gath, unfortunately. So I don't know if he's had a bit of an internet connection issue, but big improvement there. 127.115. Mark D'Agostino is finding time here, but Denzel Agius will go over the line, and he's done a 127.135. So still not quite there for Denzel Agius. So that 126.970 must have been absolute magic when he pulled that out in the middle of the session. You can see how much he's attacking the circuit, kicking up all the grass of the inside there of Crater Curve. He's really pushing these limits to the absolute maximum, but can he find any bridge to kind of extend that pole margin?
Yeah, no further improvements now from D'Agostino, from James Smith and Johan Borge. I think we're going to be getting a lap from Quattromani again, unless it is an in lap. We've got Lafurler just about to finish her lap at the moment as well. Will she go any higher? Will she beat D'Agostino to the line? She will not. She stays 6.655 seconds down from Denzel Agius, who is a man that we're currently following right now. He is really pushing this car to its absolute limit at the moment. He's been absolutely fabulous to watch in other GT championships here. This may prove to be a bit of a championship for him, where he just tries to set that precedent again, tries to find, you know, that mojo that perhaps he lost, especially in the last Velocity GT Championship in the Assetto Corsa Competizione. But as he now approaches the final corner and completes this final corner, he will dive into the pit lane, and he'll be happy with the pole position lap time of a 1:26.970. But D'Agostino did manage to set a lap within around a 10th and a half of Denzel Agius on this occasion, and that suggests to me Denzel Agius is not going to be all plain sailing going into that main race, Adam.
No, absolutely not. There's still all to play for. You know, you're still looking for those opportunities. You know, the pit stop phase, you remember there's a mandatory pit stop in this race, so surely we're going to get some sort of action between the two of them. Unless, you know, unless one of the drivers have found some real true pace and can dash out in front. I really do think that there is a good amount of competition in this one. I think also keep an eye on the midfield. You know, you get some big points in there. So I think that if you want to keep your eye on the midfield, you can absolutely do that.
Yeah, should be pretty good this one. I'm looking forward to it. We have got just a few minutes before we get on with the main race. We'll be taking a very quick break. 30 points on the line and a 45-minute race ahead. Don't go away. Welcome back then to the Maserati GT2 Championship. This is the Velocity Esports Racing Championship, and it should be an absolute cracker of a race. Ahead of us here, Denzel Adjus is on pole from D'Agostino. Gap was only a tenth and a half in this Maserati GT Championship qualifier. Of course, 45-minute race ahead of us here, and 6 drivers looking to get that inaugural race victory in this 3-race championship. It is myself, James Otto, alongside Adam Reed, your usual co-commentary pairing for ACC GT races. And Adam, while we're on this little reconnaissance lap at the moment, Denzel Adjus, we've sort of decided between the pair of us, I think, is going to be the favourite for this particular championship. But D'Agostino is looking like he's going to keep him on as even here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I expect a good battle between the two, at least once. D'Agostino could definitely have a little bit of, an angst about him. He can definitely kind of go very aggressive at the start of the race. He does need to warm those tyres up, which is exactly what he's doing. He's warming the brakes up as well. But there is kind of a good kind of opportunity for him to maybe go aggressive at the start, try and take something in the early doors. Because I think if he doesn't get a move in early stages, then Denzel Adjus is going to be off like a runner. Maya Lafella should be in the podium spots if she can keep kind of a good rhythm about it. And you've got James Smith and Johan Borges. They're going to hope to do fairly well in this race. And Gabriel Cottomani, we'll see how he does from 6th place. Maybe his race pace will be a little bit better. We always speak about kind of how qualifying pace can be better than a race pace. So that will be a super interesting kind of conversation to have. At some point, especially during this, maybe during the last round of the season, where we've seen everybody's race qualifying pace for the first 2 rounds, and kind of go forward from there. But they'll make their way on towards the Melbourne hairpin, where this is probably one of their big final breaking points. Before then getting into formation, ready for this 45-minute race in Donington, just south of Derby. And now it's time to get prepared for round 1 of the Maserati GT Challenge here at the fabled Donington Park circuit.
Yeah, D'Agostino is certainly putting a little bit of mind games on Denzel Adjus. Remember, of course, it's a rolling start procedure, folks, so no going until the green light shows. And you'll see immediately who will be fall foul of that one with the drive-through penalty icon next to their names. So keep an eye out on that one in the top left-hand side, folks, as the drivers go line astern. Denzel Adjus trying to get a little bit of a jump here to try and make sure that he gets a little bit of an early start as he heads his way towards turn number 1. And with those lights turning green, no more waiting. Let's go racing here in Donington Park then. And then here, keeping an eye out on the infamous corner here of turn number 1, that is Redgate. Denzel Adjus will have the immediate mistake going through turn number 1. That's going to allow D'Agostino potentially going 1, 2, 3, 4, and a very uncharacteristic mistake. Those tyres were cold, and Denzel Adjus, the third favourite for this one, is now down in P5 as a result. So D'Agostino then leading the way here, and what an opportunity this may be for the midfielders. You've got Johan Borges potentially in the mix here, alongside Maya Lafella, who's had an absolute blinder of a start. She now leads this race.
Yeah, I was going to say Maya Lafella has managed to take an advantage there from Mark D'Agostino. I think Mark D'Agostino just had a late reaction of those 5 red lights. Now in towards Copper's corner, Maya Lafella leads the race probably for the first time on this broadcast. So she's going to try and hold firm here. And we'll have to see how her defensive skills are, because she's always been battling in the midfield. D'Agostino going very early to the inside line, so we're not short of action whatsoever. What about Johan Borges here? He's moving in there from P3. Heading on towards the Melbourne hairpin for the first time in this one. Again, D'Agostino is just going to hold on behind here, but in towards Coppice, is that going to be a different story? I don't think so.
Yeah, and I'm looking a very firm eye out as well on Denzel Adjus, who's did an absolute blinder of a move against Quattromani now to P5 in this one. We should be P4 in just a second. Actually, this has gone around the outside of James Smith. Naturally, Maya Lafella with the fastest lap of this race, but of course there's plenty of laps here to happen for the next 44 minutes of this race. And who says you can't have fun with only 6 people in a lobby? Because I'm telling you now, it's going to get very spicy out here tonight in Derby. Keep an eye out on Maya Lafella leading the way from D'Agostino. Then you've got Johan Borges, Denzel Adjus up to P4, James Smith at P5, and Quattromani in the lowly depths of P6 at the moment, on board with D'Agostino all over the back at the moment of Maya Lafella, who's hoping to defend like a lion here. She's going to have to do her best here to defend the inside line, make that the widest Maserati GT2 you can. Look at that, immediately holding the inside line, trying to block off any kind of opportunities here for Mark D'Agostino. Number 1 Maserati really struggling to find any inroads at the moment to an overtake on Myla Furler as she's planting her car very well. Excuse me, as she now heads down the starting straight.
Yeah, this battle's already going to heat up there. D'Agostino just trying to get in the mirrors there of Myla Furler, just saying, hello, I'm here. You're just going to have to now guess where I'm going. It's a good opportunity to go to the inside here, but D'Agostino, I'd probably just hold firm down into the hairpin. No move being made there, but Johanna Borg was just saying, hello, I want to get involved in this battle. She's just sitting back there, so he managed to make up from his earlier misdemeanors. I just wonder here if how D'Agostino's going to play this. I'm going to mention he should just sit back and just see what is going on with Myla Furler. Where is she confident? Where is she a little bit weak? Maybe there are times at the back end of the circle where she may not look like she knows where she's going, but D'Agostino just seems very, very kind of knowledgeable about how the circle goes. He's given quite a lot of exit on the McLanes. I noticed that, and now we run on board with Denzel Agis. He's having a big old go here at Johanna Borg.
Yeah, he's braking significantly later than everyone else at the moment. It's Denzel Agis. He knows he's got a lot more pace in him, but just that poor star going through Redgate, that was it for him. And now he's being held up by people who he's going to consider significantly slower. Remember, this is a man who was nearly a second faster than everyone in the top 3. That's a mistake from Johann Borg, I think, and that might offer Denzel Agis an opportunity. They're going side by side, and it's easy pickings there for Agis. He's now up to P3.
Yeah, indeed. So pretty quick stuff there. It does feel like a little bit of a sprint to the minute for these drivers because we've had 5 minutes. We've had Agis go off, Lafella and D'Agostino having a right old tussle. And speaking of the two, there goes D'Agostino up the inside. We just saw that off camera.
Oh, great switch.
Looks like Lafella's going to be able to get a good switch back here for the Project Divertio team. But now in towards Goddard's. D'Agostino once again with that inside line. He's going to block off Maya Laferla's attack, and that now sees D'Agostino back into the lead here. A lead which he gave up right at the entry of turn number 1 here. So he now has to control the pace here. But look at the two drivers behind him. Project Aversio are going to go in 2s here. That's going to be pretty troublesome for him as well.
XE, they're going to execute something here, make sure they don't end up in a kind of bother between the pair of them at the moment. I will say Maya Laferla did a very good switch back to her going through they're going through the hairpin, but in the end she's going to find that she's under a lot of criticism, a lot of mistake there. Denzel Agis losing the rear and getting a tank slapper, loses the position but nearly taking out his own teammate in that occasion, but well held in that occasion, and that brings Johann Borg back into the mix as we now head down that back straight.
Yeah, indeed, that's going to be that's a pretty hairy, scary moment there for the two Project Divertio team there. They were probably wincing at that in the boxes at Donington Park here. So, Johann Borg is just going to keep a bit of an eyelid on this one. I'm sure this is the way he potentially do. He needs to have a little bit of contact, then he'll be going straight through, but that's not what they're going to be planning to do. D'Agostino just holding pace well, and I do presume there's not going to be any team orders there at Project Divertio, despite knowing that Denzel might be the faster car in this one. Maya's going to hold her own against her arguably faster teammate.
So here we go then, it's 38 minutes to go in this session, 28 minutes left to go in this session as it stands by Laferla. Has now lost 1 second gap to D'Agostino here. Denzel Agis is trying to get that move done on Laferla so then he can start chasing down D'Agostino. Gap was around about a 10.5 in qualifying, but he's absolutely flying out there. Here's Gabriel Quattramani, the number 4, now all over the back of James Smith in this little backwards tussle at the moment here. So they'll continue that battle. I'm keeping a firm eye on Denzel Agis at the moment. He's the closest battle at the moment with his EVE teammate of Maya Laferla. Gap around 1/4 second, and an opportunity potentially with that gap with the toe down the starting straight. Maybe a look into the S's, if not certainly at the Melbourne hairpin for Denzel Agis. Here he comes then. We're going to keep an eye on Denzel Agis at some point, I hope, in this one, because he's the closest battle out on circuit at the moment. In fact, let's go on board with there he is, Denzel Agius, because Agius is looking for it, and you tell you what, he is getting the better apexes over his EBE teammate, but not looking close enough for a move at Goddard. But Goddard has been a particularly challenge here for Maya Lafurla, and you can see there missing the apex, losing the rear, and if anything, actually losing the rear has allowed the car to point end on the front and get a good exit. So actually, slight mistake, but able to just capitalise on that one from Lafurla and manage to hold on. But Agius, look how late on the brakes he is at the moment. He's made a mistake though, going through red gate. That might allow a little bit of breathing room for Lafurla.
Yeah, I think that he's still in the wheel tracks off Maya Lafurla. I think he's just doing a little bit of analytical work for his point to burst shooting. A little bit wide there for the old hairpin whilst Lafurla managed to attack it. Yeah, we can probably speak about the crater curves into old hairpin for probably the rest of the race, because it's such a tricky section of corners. You know, you're going downhill at a rapid rate of knots, probably about 140 miles an hour, and yeah, if you get crater wrong, you know, you're going into a very tricky situation heading into old hairpin. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. Meanwhile, James Smith is having a great battle here with Johan Borg to head their way in towards the Esses chicane. Will Smith decide to have a little bit of a go here on his LP Racing teammate heading towards the Melbourne hairpin? I don't suspect any late braking moves. Yeah, nothing going there, but Borg is off. Borg is straight off. I wonder if that was just out braking for himself. That was a very, very strange moment there from Johan Borg, and that's going to be one he'll live to regret. But Romani now up into 5th place in the 2. Project Berti is now about to go into a bit of a ding-dong battle. Maya Lafurla holds her own in P2 there, but again, a look from the main man of Denzel Agius. Agius on the exit, not quite there. What about old hairpin? I don't think that's going to be a move either.
Yeah, Lafurla was doing her best here to defend for a potential P1. She couldn't do it going through Goddard, which is proving to be a real challenge for a turn 11 here tonight. But I tell you what, Denzel Agius, though he made that one critical mistake at Redgate, he is flying out there at the moment. So if anything, he would have the fastest lap if it weren't for the fact there were so many people in front of him. And look at that, another slight mistake as he's just trying to find a way to get past his teammate at the moment. But she's under no obligation, Lafurla, to give this position up. She can hold on for P2 on her own cards. The gap between her and D'Agostino is now 2 seconds. Agius trying to get as close as he can, going through the S's. No late breaker through here, but he's certainly got the toe and the traction out of the corner. He might look for it down into the Melbourne hairpin. Here he comes then. Is he going to look for it? He goes down the inside of the Melbourne hairpin. Lafurla leaves the space. She might look for the switchback, but it's been completely shut off. The door completely shut in her face. And Agius now up to P2. He's got a 2.5 second deficit.
Yeah, that's a good move there from Denzel Agius. I think he really needed that. We'll have to see how that all kind of panned out. I wish we could get a replay on that one, because that was a really good move. That all started probably around about Coppice corner, getting a good exit. Great kind of flow through the S's, and that set him up beautifully for the Melbourne hairpin. He was good on the brakes as well, and now he's just got to try and shut down a 2-second lead. Yeah, it still remains at 2 seconds. The Lafurla just going to start losing touch a little bit with that 7/10. But the pit window has been open for quite the while now, so I just wonder for the rest of the field, are they going to jump in the pits very soon? If you're Denzel Agius, do you want to try and maybe do an undercut here, pit first, do a little bit of fueling, change the tyres, and then go back out? That will be a potential plan for them to try and execute. But for now, all stations hold.
Stations hold indeed. 33 minutes to go in this race. We're open for the next 28. We would expect the pit stops around about halfway through this race, so around about 24 minutes is where we would expect the pit stops to happen here. It's a moderate circuit. The tyre degradation is the Donington Park circuit, one of my favourite circuits in Britain. This one, as we're following Gabriele Quattromani trying to close up here on James Smith. An opportunity for P4 on the cards for some of the backfielders, if you have to say, not to be disrespectful to the team. But with only 6 drivers, someone's got to finish down at the back, and Gabriele Quattromani has an opportunity opportunity, excuse me, to be up in P4 here with that critical mistake from Johan Borg, who is now 3.5 seconds back from this pairing now as they head through Redcar.
Yeah, indeed. We'll have to see how this all kind of works out. Just seen Denzel Adjia. He was almost 7/10 of a second quicker than Mark D'Agostino last time around. So he's really been freed up. Will Kotsumani be able to do the same and free himself up behind Johan Borg? We'll have to see how this all kind of works out on toward the uphill section of McLean's. Very tricky braking zone there because you're having to do it in a straight line to maximise your braking, but if you the way it kind of winds is not the way it works either. So in towards Coppice Corner, quite ready now to get that throttle pedal all the way down to the floor by the time we get onto that curve here. So he's going to have to really just try and find something in toward the S's. Can he maybe just cut that gap down a little bit, maybe get into Smith's, Smith's mirrors. Look at this. This is unbelievable here from Denzel Adjis. Put himself under a second the rear of Mark D'Agostino, and I think Mark is now going to be looking in his mirror thinking, that's a very, very fast project diversion that's approaching my rear. I might have to do a bit of defending now.
Yeah, might have to do a little bit of defending here. His last lap then was a 28.1. It will now be another 28.1 for him. Where's Denzel Adjis in all of this one? 28.1 was the last fastest lap for D'Agostino here, all over the back of him as well. Now is Denzel Adjis as they go through Redgate. Let's go on board with Denzel Adjis because we'll see how close he really is in comparison to D'Agostino. 27.2, he was nearly a second faster than the man currently leading this race at the moment. Denzel Adjis is absolutely flying out on circuit at the moment now as he goes through the old hairpin, a little wide as he goes through bridge and then up to the plains. You'll want to try and take this inside line as much as you can and then take this long right, sweeping right-hander before you head your way up to Coppice. Now keep an eye out here on Adjis because this is where he's not been particularly strong in qualifying. So notice he was losing a bit of time through Coppice here, and you can see there again, not particularly quick out of Coppice, but in these sort of middle speed corners, we're thinking the S's, we're thinking the Melbourne hairpin on the approach rather, Adjis is so late on the brakes, and that is just allowing him to find every 10th out of D'Agostino at the moment. D'Agostino going for a more of a defensive line going through the Melbourne hairpin. I'm not entirely sure as to why, because Adjis wasn't looking for the move, so he's lost a heap of time. He doesn't need to, and he's seen it again, so he's decided not to do it on this occasion, going through Goddard. It's a matter not of if, but when, I would suspect, for Adjis, unless D'Agostino makes that the widest Maserati you can see.
Yeah, indeed. I think now that now they're in this position, I think Dirty S will start to play a little bit. You see that the big wing off the back of both those cars. That's going to play a little bit of a part in the aerodynamics of this one. And notice how kind of Adjis' movement. He was lap after lap after lap, closing down 5, 6, 7 tenths of a second. Now he's kind of just got to a stage where he kind of paused as well. So I think that might be kind of down to the dirty air, down to having a car in front of him. We'll have to kind of see how that all kind of peters out as we now look back here to Gabriel Kotsumani. He's coming up a little bit there on James Smith, but he's gone off onto the grass edge slightly, so he's handed over a tenth or two to the number 12 of James Smith. We look back to the lead battle, still very much heating up, but I don't expect to move. Really expect to move in the next couple of minutes or so.
29 minutes to go in this session, folks. 24 with this pit window. Now I would expect D'Agostino would be considering an early pit stop here. Try and at least use the tyre advantage if he can to stay in front of Denzel Adjis. If Adjis pits earlier than D'Agostino, D'Agostino is finished. He cannot will beat this sheer pace at the moment of Denzel Adjis, who is looking even more likely to make this move. 27.6 on the last lap for Adjis. Let's go on board with D'Agostino. We'll see how he is approaching this particular lap at the moment. Is the man currently in P1. Been asked to go on board with him just for a second in the other Maserati, currently in P1. In fact, we'll get that footage in just a second. We'll continue to follow Agius, the number 89, looking particularly strong. This is a real bounce back, isn't it, for Denzel Agius? Yes, he made the mistake on lap 1 at Redgate, but you know what? The bounce back has been fabulous, and you know what? From a general GT perspective, his pace has not quite been there, but the pace in this particular race, he's absolutely smashing it, and it's going to make for a very interesting event. Losing the rear slightly, happy to do so though, because look at the traction he's managed to get against D'Agostino, and I think there's a potential Melbourne hairpin overtake opportunity here for the man with the fastest lap of this race. So much later on the brakes through the S's. Is he going to look for it then, going through into the Melbourne hairpin? He's got the traction, he's got the toe, but he might not just have the gap at the moment. It's going to be a late breaker. He'll decide to go around the outside, hopefully have the switch, hopefully the door's not entirely shut on that Maserati, but on this occasion the other Maserati holding station as they head through Goddard's, and they'll complete another lap of Donington Circuit in line astern. Is Agius going to go for the later one? Is he going to go into the pits? No, they will continue on these aging tyres now. 27 minutes to go in this race.
Yeah, nobody decided to pit just yet. I think they'll make it at a bit of a later stage. So we'll have to see how that kind of all works out. Because I think once the tyres start to really die off and come to the cliff, I think that's when they're going to decide to go for it. So maybe around that 20 to 15 minute mark. Between that range, I think by the 15-minute mark, they'll all be in. There's contact between the two, and that is going to be very, very interesting there, because Denzel, I think, definitely tapped the back there of D'Agostino. He's allowed the all-blue Maserati to go back through. Great gentleman racing there between the two. That really caught me off guard. I don't know about you, James Otter, but that was a bit of a moment to really pop out your cheeks, and they made it through fairly cleanly.
Yeah, I tell you what, fair play to Agius there. He knows he's got the pace. He doesn't need to make an overtake there. We've got a little bit of I think that's a bit of a replay potentially on the card here for Contramani on this occasion. I'm not entirely sure what happened to James Smith earlier on in that particular battle, but off of the track he went in that particular one there. Anyway, we're back on board following D'Agostino and Agius. Fair play to Agius, I said, gave that position right back up, knew he made the mistake, saw a gap that just wasn't quite there on this occasion, but this might offer an opportunity for D'Agostino now. He might decide to pit, knowing that maybe it's an opportunity for a fresh set of tyres, but on this occasion, 25 minutes to go in this race, they continue line astern. So D'Agostino still a ways in this race here. Agius looking very quick indeed, but D'Agostino able to hold him back at the moment.
Himself out here, just see what he can do, because of course Agius knows that was a little bit of a poor move on his behalf. And of course, giving over the place, I think that's the right decision. But again, Mark D'Agostino done the same thing here, and back through goes Denzel Agius a lap later. The lead changes for a second time. This time, he's not going to be handing that place over. Denzel Agius is back into the lead here at Donington Park, and that will be a big move. I think D'Agostino will be kicking himself after that one. That's not going to be one for the highlight reel whatsoever.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic situation there for D'Agostino. So Denzel Agius now leading this race. Gap around about 0.5 of a second. Now D'Agostino will recognise I'm in a lot of trouble here, because this man in front of me is so much faster, so I'm going to have to do some kind of lunge here, try and put him under some pressure. He's not doing it at the Melbourne hairpin. He might look for it at Goddard, but he's got to get on that power now. He's got to get on there quickly. But D'Agostino has not got that traction versus Agius, who is looking so sharp, and who said one mistake at Redgate could cost him any chance of winning this race. He has been absolutely brilliant, and D'Agostino finally comes into the pit lane. He's going to try and get this undercut to work a treat, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, it will be. We'll have to see how that all kind of pans out as well. So now we look at Denzel Agius. I wonder if his knowledge would be aware that Mark D'Agostino is in, because he wouldn't see in the mirrors. He would have to either see, well, mainly from his relatives. So it will kind of be the way that he figures that out, and he will know that he's going to have to push. So we'll have to see how the lap times all kind of work out at this stage. D'Agostino has in fact dropped all the way down to last. Yes, it says fifth there, but trust me, if you look on the map on the right hand side, he is pretty much dead last, and we'll see when he gets going, because it's going to be quite the change for tyres as well. There is Johan Borg right at the back of the field. He's had a bit of a kind of a struggle session today. He's 10 seconds behind Denzel Adges as out comes Mark D'Agostino. So his pit stop is complete. He'll get the tyres up to the temperature, and then he can go on the charge and see if he can maybe chop down that gap to Denzel Adges, or is Adges just that quick?
It's just absolutely flying, but the question is will the tyre delta be significant enough here for Mark D'Agostino to potentially bounce back after losing that position to Denzel Adges himself? Where is Adges at the moment? He is currently, if my maths works it out right, leaving. In fact, he's not even pitted. He's completed the lap, so actually he is committing to the overcut here, knowing that the significant tyre delta towards the end of this race will help him. So D'Agostino has a slight advantage in this part of the race here. He'll have the traction, but will he be setting faster laps against Denzel Adges? That is the main question. Quattromani is now in alongside James Smith, so Johan Borg will be able to get the jump on the pair of those. He'll now move up to P3, yet to make a pit stop though. Myla Furler, curiously, has also not made that pit stop either. So she is comfortable in a bit of a no man's or no woman's land at the moment for down in P2, or what will be P3 after everyone makes their pit stops. She is of course yet to make her pit stop, last lap 28.8, so significantly down on her personal best.
Yeah, she's held her ground. I didn't expect a podium from her, especially after looking at those qualifying results. I didn't really expect that, she'd have a massive fall off or struggle in the race, but she really kept her own. It's been massively impressive to see, especially now having that project of Vertigo. Prescino is one of the biggest teams in Malta esports racing, so it's definitely proving to be a very, very quick, clean driver as well, not putting too much. And as I said, she held her ground against Denzel Adges in the early stages. Speaking of Denzel, he hasn't decided to come into the pits either, so big opportunity there for him. But I think he will be pitting maybe this time next. Myla Furler, nonetheless, has dipped off into the pit lane, so that will now see two of our drivers left not to pit, and we'll have a look on the map, see if Johan Borg decides to come into the pits, and if he does, then that will leave only one singular car remaining. We'll see if Borg, yes, he is in. That car just slowing right down and pulling off to the left of the race circuit.
So here we go then, folks. This is going to be the critical one here. Now the top three yet to make their pit stops, or make their mandatory pit stops, as Lafurler and Borg are just now in the pits. Denzel Adges is absolutely committing to a very strong overcut here, in the hope that maybe towards the end of this race the significant tyre delta is going to be enough to basically battle. But D'Agostino, now 22.1, puts him on the fringes of actually completing the undercut as it stands. I believe it's a 20-second pit stop around here, so he is, getting perilously close here. Now Denzel Adges' general pace has been significant. The question though is if D'Agostino has got enough pace when he does make this pit stop. If Adges doesn't pit now, he is certainly committed to a massive overcut. We'll see. Here he comes through Goddard's then. Pit lane entry directly to your left, folks. Is he diving in? He certainly is. Of course he is. So he's the last person to make that pit stop as it stands. Where is D'Agostino at the moment? The number one is currently all the way down on McLean's at the moment here. This is going to be, I think, actually an opportunity for Adges to potentially make the overcut work and still stay out in front. This is going to be tight.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to probably, that's going to be about a 3-second pit stop. So we'll have to see how that will kind of 3-second pit stop, 3-second gap. I'm not entirely sure, because now seeing Mark D'Agostino on an absolute run, closing in, I wonder if Adges will be behind in this rate, but he will have the fresh tyres, he will have the fuel to then go on the chase, so we don't see any movement from that number 89, and now he has just left the pits. There you go, he's about to now lead the pits, but is that going to be enough for Denzel Adges to come out ahead? And there he is, right ahead.
Oh, wow.
Is ahead, and now with cold tyres, will D'Agostino try and go for an early attack? They're right on each other's bumpers, but with the cold tyres, Adges has really got to make do with what he's got in the minute.
I couldn't have timed that to absolute perfection. Fair play to Denzel Agius on the overcut, working an absolute treat, and he stayed out in front of D'Agostino. The tyres will begin to warm, and D'Agostino may just have to accept it's going to be second place on this occasion, second best for a man who is absolutely flying out there at the moment in the GT scene. Denzel Agius losing his form a little bit over the last couple of championships brought to you by Velocity, but in this particular one might only be a small little championship, but it's a great setter to try and get at least a little bit of momentum building in 2026 for this man here, as Denzel Agius will do his best now to just nurse that car home. Oh, big tag slapper, well held from D'Agostino, he's pushing.
He is, and that's exactly what we love to see there. But D'Agostino just overstepping the mark on that one through the S chicane. It's so easy to do that. Just have a look at a touring car race, or go to a British GT weekend here. You'll see a lot of drivers overstepping the mark through that sequence of corners. It's so easy to do so, whether you're in a twin top or a single seater. And then you just come past the well-known Donington Park commentary box and past all of the pit stalls there. And there is Maya Lafella in P3. She's really managed herself really well, but just hasn't had the same pace as Agius and D'Agostino, etc. Cocciamani has kept himself very well as well. You know, a big credit there to the 444, who started down in 6th place in this race, but now has found himself up into 4th, so he'll be grabbing a good amount of points to go forward in this championship.
17 minutes to go in this race as well. I'm still thinking, oh, that's a real tag slapper, well held from Johan Borg. He just comes across the line to get on with his next lap at the moment, down at the back in P6. Perilously close there from Johan Borg there in the LP racing car. He is really struggling out there at the moment. Oh, he's on the grass again, is Johan Borg. I think he's just going to have to bring this car home. It's been a bit of a disappointing race after that one mistake that he made at the Melbourne hairpin. He's not really managed to get his race back up and running. We're back on board with Denzel Agius. The gap already against D'Agostino, 1.7. It's looking like the Project Aversio driver has found his form, he's found his mojo, and he might be finding another classy Gran Turismo championship.
Yeah, indeed. That was a very, very good effort from him at the back end of last year in the Ashmore Kings. He's really attacked the GT3 championship really well. There you just come off the back of that finished at the end of the start of December last year, and he's come into the mid-Feb round or the mid-Feb races of the Maserati GT Challenge, and he finished start with an absolute I reckon, and he still leads the way by a good almost 2.5 seconds there to Mark D'Agostino. I love the way how he kind of controls himself. You know, the way he's kind of, especially after that mistake, he's kind of really worked out himself. He's, you know, taken he's taken every single opportunity and really gone with it. And now he really feels like spreading his wings to the nth degree here. Agius is just on the way to a checkered flag. As long as he doesn't make a silly mistake and have a snap of loss of focus, he should be on his way to a big 30 points to kickstart this Maserati GT Championship.
So, what is going to happen? Denzel Agius really pushing, trying to set fastest lap after fastest lap, 3.2 between him and D'Agostino at the moment. Lafella will be down about 7 or 8 seconds, I think, at the moment. In fact, maybe like 11 seconds now on D'Agostino as well, trying to sort of capitalise on what has been a relatively good race, actually, from the lady herself. So she'll be looking to try capitalise on a really good podium and potentially set some early horizons into a decent championship run here. But it's all really going to be about these two at the moment. Mark D'Agostino, what can he do as the dark horse in this championship to try and hold back Denzel Agius, because he has been fabulous apart from one corner in this race. Agius has been absolutely flying high. Little mistake there, always on the grass desperately at the moment is D'Agostino. He's been pushing so hard to get as close as he can to Agius, but at the moment it's all on as even for Agius. He's just nursing his car home without really any risk whatsoever to take the race victory here. 14 minutes to go in this one. Everyone has now made their pit stop, so we're going to the finish.
Yeah, indeed. So, as I said, before the 15-minute mark, everyone would have had their pit stops. I was indeed correct with that one. So we'll have to see how the how the battles continue at this moment in time. It looks like the closest one at this moment in time is Agius and D'Agostino, separated by 4 seconds. at this moment in time. So they're just trying to work themselves out here. But yeah, I think D'Agostino is kind of lifted off the throttle here. Meanwhile, Adji is just trying to go for an even bigger, fastest lap and just shut that kind of just shut that fastest lap time down. Maybe see if we can put in a 26.8, I should say, rather than a 16.16 would be a little bit impossible for these GT3 cars. Yeah, we'll have to see if Adjus can go potentially even faster. I'd love to see what time he's been doing now. So if we switch over to our race leader in the number 89, yeah, I'd love to see what his lap time is. Casino attacks Redgate corner, despite now handing hand over fist in terms of time to that number 89.
So the question is here now, it's less about this race and more about the wider ramifications of this particular championship now, because Denzel Adjus 5 seconds from D'Agostino means that he's already setting the early precedent that I'm going to be that man to beat at the moment. So, you know, we now have to sort of forward think, don't we now, Adam? We have to think about Zolder, we have to think, you know, about the Red Bull Ring. You know, what have these drivers got to do to try and beat this man? This is not a very long championship. Every 100th of a second is going to count. Never mind that one, Adjus is finding every second, no issue whatsoever.
Yeah, indeed. Still working really hard to see if he can just extract any sort of time out of the car that he possibly can. And as I say, it's been a very dominant, stylish performance from him ever since he kind of got away from that incident at Redgate at the very first corner of the very first lap. So just trying to spin the tyres up there out of the corner. So I wonder if they're going to start getting red hot there. His best time actually 127.280. So that's still yeah, what is that? That's about what, 0.3 of a second slower than his qualifying time, which would have been set in a very low fuel and all guns ablaze. This time he doesn't have to, you know, he doesn't have to go all guns blazing this time around. It's just about taking the car home without a scratch on it.
So with 11 minutes to go in this race, folks, the question that answers on my lips now is what will be the situation for Myla Furler in this one as well, because she's in a little bit of a no man no woman's land here as well. She's got a significant gap between her and D'Agostino and a significant gap between her and Gabriele Quattromani, a gap around about 10 seconds either way. So, you know, she'll be happy that she'll obviously be churning these podiums, but, you know, you've done plenty of Grand Touring, you know, racing here, Adam, especially in the commentary scene. You know, what is next for Myla Furler? What has she got to do to go from now she's got the pace to get away from the midfield? How can she close herself up then towards the front runners?
I think it's just trying to maybe just try and do little other bits, you know, maybe work on the setup, maybe you know, learn from the best drivers, getting a little bit of help from her teammates like Denzel Adjus and maybe someone like if she wants to go in the F1C, Ryan Carabot is a very good driver to go with. You know, there's a lot of drivers surrounding her in the Malta Velocity Esports racing scene. So there's a whole load of drivers you can really lean off as well to get that extra bit quicker, and maybe I hope by the time we complete Zolder and then get on to the final round of the championship, yeah, at the Red Bull Ring, I really do hope that she's going to be right up there rather than sitting, you know, what seems like almost a quarter of the circuit away from the race leader. She can maybe be about maybe 5 or 6 seconds off by the time we enter the last 5 minutes. So yeah, I do have a lot of faith there in a lot of these drivers to get quicker. It just kind of depends if they want to go through that effort, which, you know, you're going to be asked by lots of sim racers, but, you know, most of the time I think 99.99% of them would say yes in that case.
Yeah, I mean, like, the bottom line is she's got such a tightly knit team in Project Versio, as well. Obviously, the Maltese team with a well-established run within the Grand Touring scene as well. I'm thinking Gran Turismo and ACC, so plenty of opportunity for them to be able to potentially sort of coach her, step her up, and get her into a position to be potentially at the front alongside Denzel Agius in the team as well. So it'd be interesting to see what the Maltese team can do with her as she continues in her esports journey. We're following D'Agostino. What has he got to do as well? This unbranded car as well in the original Maserati course car. You know, it's a bit of a disappointing one here. It will be for him. I think this race will be very much a question of, you know, what if, really, isn't it? Because there was an opportunity for him, to really capitalise on a mistake from Denzel Agius, really pull away, but after making a poor start, allowing Maya Lafurla to get in there has cost him seconds upon seconds upon seconds upon seconds, and that is just, you know, although it might have been a level of inevitability with Denzel Agius' pace at the moment, you know, it will still be a question of, you know, what if, I reckon, for Mark D'Agostino here. Just following James Smith as well, the classic over 40s driver racing for LP here tonight, down in P5. It's been a bit of a disappointing race for him as well. So yeah, I think the biggest loser in this one, despite the fact you've got Johan Borg going out and spinning at Redgate, is not Johan Borg. I do think it is D'Agostino in this one.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit unfortunate there for Johan Borg, but yeah, he'll come back from that maybe at the next round in Zolder. Meanwhile, Mark D'Agostino just making his way into the Melbourne hairpin. Not a lot of pressure on him either. He's just got to try and maintain his way to the end. Look how far he's dropped back. Remember, he came out of the pits. His championship rival Denzel Agius came out of the pits, and they were probably separated by what, less than half a second. That gap extending to now, what's that, 11.5 seconds to Denzel Agius. I think Maya Lafurla's also still in chase, but with 7 minutes left to go of the session, I kind of doubt Maya Lafurla can cut that down, because that's pretty much a second a lap, which would be very, very difficult to do so. Despite D'Agostino, I believe, having the foot off the gas pedal just that little bit more than he usually would. But, yeah, just trying to cruise to the end at this rate without kind of feeding any pressure from behind. But Lafurla is gaining, so never say never about this. So keep an eye on that timing tower on the left-hand side between D'Agostino and Lafurla. If that closes up, gets to less than maybe less than 6 seconds by the end of the lap, I think it could be game on here.
Potentially. It depends on if D'Agostino has actually burnt through his tyres. Remember, he pitted significantly earlier than everyone else, of course, trying to capitalise off of Denzel Agius's sort of performance and trying to... I still question the strategy. I would have pitted a lot earlier to try and capitalise on the better tyre, but in all fairness, it looks like Agius was always going to have it in hand anyway. But either way, D'Agostino didn't help himself on this occasion. Gap now 12 seconds and losing a bucket of time to Denzel Agius. I'm wondering if his tyres have started to fall off a cliff a little bit here, and if that is the case, I think you're bang on, Adam, and that could actually invite Lafurla into much more than just P3. Could be a Project Aversio 1-2.
Yeah, I think that's what she's going to be hoping for, but I think the minute D'Agostino realises there is a Project Aversio car behind him, yeah, I think that's going to be quite the scare that he's going to get. Again, 5.5 seconds, and that was the split time for the start-finish straight. So, again, still some serious consideration about that. You now see Denzel Agius having a few slides. I think he's having a lot of fun out there. That 600 plus horsepower twin turbo V6 Maserati is really just cradling it around each corner. It's really just responding to every movement. And I'm not going to lie here, Jake. That genuinely makes it look like he's a professional racing driver. He looks like he's had over 100 races in that car, the way that it's moving. But I promise you, he's just your regular, very good sim racer.
Yeah, that's a fact, isn't it? I mean, this is a smaller championship, and it gives him an opportunity to bounce back after, you know, it was a fabulous Gran Turismo championship for him. GT cars are clearly the choice car for Denzel Agius, but he just wasn't able to find his mojo over the second half of 2025 with the new year ahead of him and an opportunity to just maximise all of these races with very little in the way to block him. He to just manage his race pace. I'm still keeping a very firm eye on D'Agostino Lafurla at the moment as well. Gap still 5.5. Lafurla has not managed to gain anything on D'Agostino on that previous lap here, but I'm wondering if D'Agostino has actually just heard your call, Adam, and he's got a little bit nervous here, and there may be just a little bit of a last dash, a bit of pressure maybe from the second Project Versio driver.
Indeed. He's definitely picked up the pace just that little bit, so he may have, as I say, James, you may have just heard our call at the end of that one. So he's going to pick up the pace just that little bit, just to kind of solidify that second place with 3 minutes left to go in the session. So yeah, really intrigued to see how that's all going to go at this moment in time. But yeah, Lafurla, again, there's a lot of credit to give out the majority of this field, from Agius all the way down to Borges. There's a lot of drivers that have run really, really well, kept pace. They've not lost focus. They've rarely made a mistake. Kept it on. I think honestly, keep it on the track is one thing. Putting a fantastic performance is another level. But yeah, seriously, these top three especially deserve a lot of credit for what they've done. Quattromani still 12 seconds behind Lafurla, and I think he's still got quite the roof to kind of build his potential in this Maserati GT Challenge.
So 2.5 minutes to go in this session then, folks, and this looking very much like it was never really in doubt, even with that mistake at turn 1. Denzel Agius showing that 28 laps, maybe it'll be 29, maybe even 30 laps, proved to be not really that much of a challenge for this GT2 challenge for Maserati here in this one. But with 2 and a bit minutes to go, Denzel Agius will keep up this pace of 16 seconds as Lafurla has now brought the gap to nearly sub 5 seconds here. With 2 minutes to go, if those tyres have fallen off a cliff here, D'Agostino has got to really protect what's left, as he will of course go around and finish this lap, and he'll have another lap here as it stands as well. So what is it, squeaky bum time, I think they call it here, Adam, for D'Agostino.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of touch and go, but if Lafurla is able to can't go any further, maybe she's burnt out her tyres. I think it's at that point now where you can't really do too much more. But with your head over the line now, here comes Denzel Agius. He can afford to back off. It's one of those situations where you can afford to back off, but at this moment in time, with the average lap times that he's been doing circulating the circuit, we are going to be going one more lap. So 2 laps to go here at Donington Park in a very, very fascinating race.
Wow indeed. Denzel Agius will now just use this opportunity to just try and set another fastest lap, to be honest with you. He'll be completing 30 laps of this race here, and what has been a race that just really wasn't going to be anything of any kind of challenge to the man who just finds GT cars just such a bliss to drive. Here he comes through Coppice then, does the number 89 Project Versio Maserati, and you know what? This is exactly what Agius needed. As said, missed opportunities throughout the later half of 2025 left him with a little bit out of form, a little bit perhaps lacking any kind of confidence. As he now heads his way down the Starkey Straight, he can find himself in, relatively decent proposition here to be a title contender, no issue whatsoever. D'Agostino gave it a really good go in the end, but with 17 seconds in the end after all of the pit stops, the tyre delta and just his general race pace was just too significant in the end. As he now heads his way through Goddard, he will now head his way down this main straight, and he will complete another lap of this race. He's left it all the way to the absolute line. I would have just left off of the throttle, but after lining all this one up here, Adam, he is going to do another lap around here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to absolutely lap this up. That was no pun intended, by the way, whatsoever. I think he's seriously going to be enjoying every single moment of this, and as he should. He is seriously managed himself so well as he comes up towards McLean's and then on towards this next sequence of corners. Up towards Coppice he goes, and yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. In fact, he's approaching the back of Johan Borges in his Maserati, but he's gliding out of Coppice and just showing how dominant he's been. It's been absolutely amazing. Even then, Johan Borsch is going to be letting him through, but he's only got a couple of corners left. 2 corners to go for Denzel Agius. It has been a wide open championship when we loaded into that qualifying session, but one man has managed to take it all in the opening round. He is going to continue this run, hopefully going into the next round. It's been quite the challenge, especially from his starting point where he had that issue up at Redgate Bridge, up at Redgate Corner, but across the line, Denzel Agius is your winner here at Donington Park, and what a magical performance to finish it off. He will slow right down, and we'll see how that car takes it all. Fantastic 30 points to add to his tally, and Mark D'Agostino will come home in second ahead of Maya Lafella. Gabriel Quattromani will come home fourth, and James Smith home in 5th place there. The final 2 cars about to cross the line. Huge kudos to a lot of them. The gap between D'Agostino and Lafella right at the end, 4.8 seconds. So yeah, D'Agostino did put the foot to the floor just that little bit more to extend that gap.
Yeah, it was sort of unreal, to be fair, from Agius. He made that slight mistake, didn't he, going through into Redgate, but you know what, it never really bothered him, and I think that kind of performance suggests that he is going to be a man that is going to be the one to be in this Maserati GT Challenge. This is the Velocity Esports channel. It's brought to you by Motors Inc., well, I'll get there in the end, Intercomp, Monster Energy, Brand Garage, Level Academy, and The Specialist. This has been a very interesting race indeed. It's set the precedent here. Denzel Agius is the one to be considering. Let's take a quick look at this calendar before we wrap it up. It is a very short calendar indeed. We wrap it up here at Donington Park. We now take a trip over to Belgium for the Zolder circuit for what will be its own individual challenge, and then the week after that we'll be over in Austria for the Red Bull Ring, and in the Styrian Mountains, what was known as the A1 Ring, should be an absolute cracker. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week at Zolder. Take care. Ta-ra.
It looks like a car, but it is much more than that. It's the result of a way of being. It's a mentality taking shape. It's a continuous what if. It's the ultimate version of can't be better. It's the impossible looking less impossible. It's starting from the search for perfection and ending up getting lost in beauty. It's failing or flying. It's intelligence having fun. It's experimenting with dreams. It's the passion of Italians for life. It looks like a car, but it is all the cars we've ever dreamt of.